Hello there my friends, my name is Riskfish and today I'm bringing you a video on Warhammer 2 Total War. Speculating about the next DLC is always fun and there is always another hint to find from CA. So today I'll be discussing the idea that a Strigoi could be leading the assault against Goros and his warhead in the next DLC. The first thing to establish is that CA have heavily hinted that the Beastmen will be the centre play for the next DLC, with two hints so far. Firstly, they left the comments Centigo milk anyone in the Grom Let's Play comments on YouTube. While this is one of the ingredients for Grom's Cauldron, singling this item out specifically is curious, and since the last DLC was hinted by whispers in a trailer, it cannot be overlooked. The CA member in charge of DLCs also stated on a livestream that Nagaroth needs more beasties, which could also be referring to the Beastmen. This is made even more clearer from the Beastmen official army book, which shows that the largest concentration of Beastmen in the New World are in Nagaroth. The reference to Centigos could also be a reference to the only Beastman Centigo Lord, Goros Warhoof. There is also the state of the Warhammer 2 races. CA has stated that they want to bring all races up to the same standard, and all Warhammer 2 races have had 2 Lord packs. In fact, the only difference between them is that the Skaven and the Dark Elves are missing a 3LC Lord each. Regardless, some have speculated that Clan Moulder could be the next DLC, but there are several issues with this. Firstly, it would break the current balance of the Warhammer 2 races, putting the Skaven ahead. Secondly, Warhammer 3 needs selling points and CA knows people want Clan Moulder. Thirdly, Clan Moulder is active in the mountains of Mourne, a Warhammer 3 area. Fourthly, Clan Moulder is already on the Vortex in the southeastern tip of the Southlands, literally at the opposite end of the map from the Beastman infested area of Nagaroth. And since CA have always made preparations in advance, such as moving Clan Eshin from Lustria to the Southlands in preparation for Deathmaster Snnitch, the fact that Clan Moulder hasn't been touched at all this patch indicates that it won't be part of the next DLC. Finally, some have suggested that claw marks on the logo could hint Skaven, but if we are looking at details like that, then it is also worth mentioning that there is a skull in the very centre of the logo. This was last seen with the Tomb Kings DLC, which was an undead faction, so could actually be used as a hint for another undead faction. CA has also released one rework alongside each DLC with the exception of the Shadow and the Blade, which instead receives some significant updates to the campaign. This is important because since the Beastmen haven't had a Warhammer 2 rework, they will almost certainly be the one getting the rework this time around, so pairing them with another race that needs a rework such as the Wood Elves would end up leaving one of those two races without a rework. Luckily, there are 2 races that have already received the Warhammer 2 update offering suitable partners. The Dwarves were updated alongside the Queen and the Crone DLC in the Resurgent update, and the Vampire Counts were updated in the II patch alongside the Curse of the Vampire Coast race pack. Recently, however, the Vampire Counts have received even more potential, with significant connections to the Darklands that were added in the Mortal Empires in the Shadow and the Blade update. Firstly, Nobler Country is home to Flayed Rock, the location of a tower built by Chaos Dwarves using rebellious greenskins, that is also mentioned to currently be inhabited by a Dark Arts magic user, possibly a Necromancer. The Plain of Bones is home to the fortress of Vorag Bloodtooth, the first Ghoul King who defeated a Von Carstein and built a mighty fortress in the Darklands using Goblin and Chaos Dwarf slaves. Then there is the Broken Teeth province, which is home to Nagashazar, a massive undead fortress said to hold the remains of Nagash himself. Now to narrow down the potential lords. If you look at the bloodline system in the Vampire Counts campaign, this shows the main lord types of the Vampire Counts. The Von Carstein bloodline is already represented in-game by Manfred, Vlad and Isabella. The Red Duke represents the Blood Knight bloodline and was added as part of the Realm of the Wood Elves DLC. Since players have already paid for him once, he is unlikely to be in a second paid DLC, and the devs have also stated that they would be far more interested in him being in a Musalon based campaign. Next we have the Lamians. However, there is an overwhelming connection here to Warhammer 3, with Neferata and the Silver Pinnacle being at the edge of the Darklands, and another group of Lamian vampires rumoured to be in the forests of Southern Ind. The Necrarch Brotherhood are a faction in the Vortex, but there are a few issues here. Firstly, while there isn't a Necrarch named Lord in the game, their specialisation is magic, and Manfred von Carstein already offers this package, being skilled in 2 magic skill trees, with several other buffs to his magic, so adding another skilled magic caster wouldn't be as unique or beneficial to the Vampire Counts as a completely new playstyle. Secondly, the known Necrarch Vampire Lords are Zacharias the Everliving, who murdered his master Melchior, who murdered his master Wussaron. The problem is that Wussaron is currently in the game, and not only is he alive, he is the current faction leader of the Necrarch Brotherhood in both the Vortex and Mortal Empires campaign, presenting a possible chronological issue. It's not a huge issue, but it is still a factor. The Strigoi are also in the Vortex and actually have a lot of content pointing towards them. Firstly, CA stated that they wanted more beasts in Nagaroth, and the Strigoi are referenced in the Bloodline description as bestial juggernauts, representing the feral side of vampirism. Also, instead of the normal meat shield and magic spam playstyle of the standard vampire counts, the Strigoi have a drastically different playstyle, offering bonuses to ambushing. Since they are also geared towards ambushes, they could also have an underway type mechanic to help them reposition to ambush their enemies like the Wood Elves and Beastmen do. Recent changes to Mortal Empires also support the Strigoi, with the Marshes of Madness, the newest province, being the home to Morkin, the capital of the Strigosi Empire. While the previous update added the Halls of Nagashazar as a unique landmark for the vampire counts, this new patch not only added the Graves of the Dragons in Darkhold, but 2 ghoul-focused unique landmarks to the campaign. The first is the Tower of the Bloody Tooth in Fortress Forag, which unlocks the recruitment of crypt horrors and ghouls, reduces their upkeep cost by 15%, increases their weapon strength by 10%, and provides ghoul and a terrorgeist as a garrison. The second landmark is the Lost Necropolis of Morkin, which unlocks recruitment of crypt horrors, reduces the upkeep cost of the crypt horrors and ghouls by 5%, increases the recruit rank of these units by +4, and provides a crypt horror and ghoul garrison. These buffs are excellent by themselves, and the settlement holding these landmarks aren't actually that far apart. They can however all be combined with the researched cannibalistic rituals, Strigoi legacy and incantations of Usharon. This will have your ghouls and crypt horrors having a +6 recruitment rank, 30% reduced upkeep, 20% higher weapon strength, 10% reduced recruitment, and 5% increased speed, and these can all be got at the start of the game. Don't forget this is without a Strigoi Lord starting buffs, as Legendary Lords tend to buff units associated with them and have unique skills in their skill tree. There is also the red skill tree buffs which have the potential for things to get insane. This is actually needed though, because the current vampire counts meta resolves around rushing a technology called Defiler of the Ancient Barrows, which makes skeletons free, allowing you to field 20 stack full armies while only paying for the lords. Making crypt horrors and ghouls powerful could offer a viable alternative and significantly more fun playstyle. Now it's also worth talking about a starting position. There are currently 10 lords in the Southlands, 10 lords in Lustria and 8 lords active in Nagaroth, showing that while Nagaroth isn't as far behind as Ulthuan, which only has 3 lords, it only needs 1 lord pack to bring it in line with the 2 developed landmasses, meaning that both Gorath and the Strigoi lord could start in Nagaroth to finish the area off. Both lords are beasts, so it would also fit in with what CA said in their livestream about beasts in Nagaroth. There is also some evidence that the vampire count should be more active here, as the race can build a Tower of Prophecy in Grond and the Altar of Ultimate Darkness in, you guessed it, the Altar of Ultimate Darkness settlement. Importantly, the latter of which is only buildable by the Dark Elves and the vampire counts. There is actually a hint as to where Strigoi Lord in particular could start as well. You see, the Marshes of Madness, which is heavily associated with the Strigoi, has the wasteland climate, and this is only present in Nagaroth on the western side near Katep. There is 2 zones here, the Plain of Spiders and the Red Desert. Both have the wasteland climate, meaning that any vampire count lord that started in the Marshes of Madness could also start in these 2 provinces. Interestingly, the Plain of Spiders is also the start location of the Beastmen tribe, allowing an early clash between the vampire count faction and the Beastmen, which could be a reflection of the Lord pack. It is also quite interesting that the Dracula Spire in the Red Desert is located just north of a location in the lore called the Isle of Giant Beasts, which again, referring back to CA saying about the beasts in Nagaroth, is another potential connection. Even the name Dracula Spire sounds a bit like Dracula. It is also worth talking about recent changes to the factions in the Vortex and Mortal Empires campaign. The Strigoi Empire faction was led by Usharon previously, however very recently he has been replaced with Caden. In the lore, Usharon was a ghoul king who once served Neferata and ended up murdering Caden to take his throne. It is also worth mentioning that CA has previously not used name characters in factions that they have had plans for. For example, Clan Eshin was in the game for a long time before the Shadow and the Blade, but was never ruled by Deathmaster Snnitch. This could be due to errors resulting from having duplicate lord names. The removal of Usharon, therefore, could indicate that CA have plans for him, and Caden could be a starting enemy in Mortal Empires. Vorag Bloodytooth also has a reference in game via his fortress, and the fact that like Usharon, he has a connection to the Marshes of Madness, Morkane and the Strigoi Empire. This makes it difficult to discern which one of these two lords that has a stronger claim though. There is another option though. The Strigoi are an important part of the vampire counts. Sylvania has an area in the south called the Ghoul Woods. Musalem has a Ghoul King ruling in its sewers. Vorag's fortress was built by the first Ghoul King himself, and both Vorag and Usharon have connections to Morkane, with the later becoming its ruler. This means that even though it's unlikely, either Usharon or Vorag could become the lord, with the other becoming a personal hero, similar to how Henry Lee Massive is a personal hero to Rapans. The significance of the Strigoi is also something acknowledged by Gamesworkshop in Age of Sigmar, with one of the 4 undead factions being built around the Strigoi, and with the other 3 being able to recruit ghouls. There is also the possible name for a faction in Warhammer Total War suggested here, which is the Flesh Eater Courts. Also note that Vorag Bloodytooth's host was known as the Carrion Eaters. This sadly brings us to the end of the video. This is my second speculation guess at the next DLC, but I have discovered quite a lot more evidence pointing towards the vampire counts than the Strigoi. So I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time.